welcome back to Around Our World in 80. We are doing our last episode of Newly Parents because our kid is 1 now. So we survived a year and we've been answering the same 4 questions over the last 12 months. And instead of just talking about like the 11 to 12 month range, we thought we would talk about like the entire year because there's not really much different from 11 to 12 months at this point. Over the last year, what has been the hardest? For me, I think the hardest thing has been how to function as a family of 3. Because at the very beginning of it, it felt like we were still a married couple and we just had a really, really demanding pet. I know that's not what it's supposed to be, but the newborn phase was really difficult for me. It was difficult to feel like we could do family activities and feel like a family of 3, like 2 people and a kid. It just felt like we were doing a date and we had a baby and a million bags along, and she didn't really interact with things. So that for me, learning and transitioning from going to that to actually, like, when we go to the zoo, she actually interacts with things, and when we went to Disney, she actually like responds to things, and I feel like we can do things more as a family. I appreciate now versus when she was first born.
I would say the hardest thing is that when I feel like every time I figure out something like her sleep schedule or her eating or something like that, about the time I figure it out, it changes.
That's true. We've joked several times throughout the year that she's like the Enigma machine from World War II, where it like resets at midnight. Okay, so what have been the unexpected joys over the last year?
She's a really happy kid.
She is a really happy kid. I was overjoyed that she did not follow in some of the nightmare stories that we had heard from friends. I mean, she's got her issues and difficulties, but it was not as bad as I was expecting at the beginning, and I grossly underestimated how much she laughs and how much she makes me laugh. So that's been a really unexpected joy over the last year. How has the last year affected our marriage?
You have to learn how to work together over again.
And I feel like we're having to learn how to work as a team instead of like you do your thing, I do my thing, and we like trade off who's taking care of Reagan. Like, it's always better when we do things together. I also feel like you learn to be a lot more patient with each other. Like, you don't have time to get into arguments over really insignificant things. You only have time to argue about things that are actually important. Like it's like an Overton window of like what is worth fighting over. And I think that's been good, and I also think that's been a challenge. I don't know. I think we're still figuring it out, but it's definitely something that we've realized and had to work on.
Yeah.
So, advice for other couples that may be thinking about starting a family. What advice can you give them about the first year of having a baby?
Find a good babysitter.
For serious though, what advice would you give them?
Kind of being serious, like make sure you have someone that you can have watch your kids for a little bit so you can still go out and do things just the 2 of you. Find a good babysitter.
So you're talking more from the marriage perspective. Make sure that you find time just the 2 of you.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good thing. We thankfully have great babysitters in our parents. I would say, as far as when I was thinking about when we would start a family, one of my biggest concerns was how my life was going to change. You know, like I wouldn't be able to just go anywhere at a whim, and I would have a lot more to think about. And that's true. Like, those things are definitely going to happen. But I think when you are pre-kid versus post-kid, You only think about the negatives when you're pre-kid. And you see other families, and it's very difficult to understand the positives before you have kids. Because all you can kind of see is most of the negatives. At least that's how I was seeing it. And so I would encourage you guys, if you are doing that, to maybe look at the families around you and think about the positives. Try to find the positives. And that's been the thing that I've been the most joyous about, is she has brought so much joy to my life that I didn't even know was possible. Like I couldn't even imagine it before we had her. And we took a faith step, and God's really blessed us. So,
option 2, throw on some blinders and dive on in.
That is an option, but that's kind of difficult. It's much better if you go willingly. Hopefully this has been helpful for you guys if you've been watching all 12 months. And
we're gonna go take a nap.
Yeah. Actually, we're going on a date. Yay! We love you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all real soon.